Marcus Chun stood at the kitchen counter of his modest suburban home, phone pressed to his ear as he gazed out at the September sunshine filtering through the window. His son Danny would be visiting for Thanksgiving, and Marcus wanted to make it special. After 3 deployments overseas, Danny deserved something memorable during his brief leave. Sunset Riders Motorcycle Rentals, this is Jennifer speaking. How can I help you today? The voice on the other end was cheerful, professional. Marcus had rented from Jennifer's business before. 3 times, in fact. Each time had been smooth, efficient, and Danny had loved every moment on those bikes. Hi Jennifer. This is Marcus Chun. I've rented from you before for my son. Oh yes, Mr. Chun. I remember. Your son really enjoyed those rides along the coast. What can I do for you today? Marcus smiled, remembering Danny's face after that last ride. Wind-blown, grinning, more relaxed than Marcus had seen him in years. I'd like to reserve a bike for Thanksgiving weekend. Danny's coming home again, and I want to surprise him. That's wonderful. Let me check my availability. You're looking at November 26th, 27th, and 28th. Exactly. Thursday through Saturday. Marcus could hear the clicking of computer keys. I have the Harley-Davidson Street Glide available. That's the one Danny rode last time, right? That's the one. He loved it. Perfect. That'll be $130 per day, so $390 total. I'll need a credit card to hold the reservation. Marcus reached for his wallet. The price was fair, and seeing Danny's joy was worth every penny. He rattled off his credit card information while Jennifer confirmed the details. All set, Mr. Chun. I've got you down for November 26th through 28th. The bike will be ready for pickup at 9 a.m. on Thursday. Just bring your driver's license and the credit card used for the reservation. Thank you, Jennifer. Danny's going to be thrilled. We look forward to seeing you both. Have a great day. Marcus hung up feeling satisfied. He immediately texted Danny. Got a surprise planned for Thanksgiving weekend. You're going to love it. The response came quickly. Can't wait, Dad. Miss you. Marcus set his phone down and poured himself a cup of coffee, already imagining the weekend ahead. He'd planned everything, Thanksgiving dinner with all of Danny's favorites, a trip to the old batting cages they used to visit when Danny was in high school, and now 3 days of motorcycle rides along the Pacific Coast Highway. Life felt good. The next morning, Marcus woke to his phone buzzing insistently on the nightstand. He fumbled for it, squinting at the screen. Danny's name flashed across it. His heart jumped. Calls this early usually meant something was wrong. Danny? Everything okay? His son's voice came through, heavy with disappointment. Dad, I'm so sorry. I just got word. They're canceling all leave for Thanksgiving. There's been a situation developing overseas, and they need everyone on standby. Marcus felt his carefully constructed plans crumbling. Oh, son. I'm sorry. I know you were looking forward to coming home. I really was. But orders are orders. Danny paused. What was that surprise you mentioned? Marcus sighed. I'd rented you a motorcycle for the weekend. The Harley you loved. Dad. Danny's voice cracked slightly. That would have been perfect. I'm really sorry. Don't be. This isn't your fault. We'll do it next time, whenever that is. They talked for a few more minutes before Danny had to go. After hanging up, Marcus sat on the edge of his bed, staring at the wall. The house suddenly felt very quiet and very empty. Then he remembered the motorcycle reservation. $390 charged to his credit card for a rental that wouldn't happen. Marcus looked at his phone. It was 7:30 a.m. Sunset Riders opened at 8 o'clock. He made himself breakfast, trying to be patient. Jennifer had always been reasonable. This was just a cancellation, plenty of advance notice. Surely it wouldn't be a problem. At 8:05, Marcus called. Sunset Riders, Jennifer speaking. Hi Jennifer, it's Marcus Chun. I reserved a motorcycle yesterday for Thanksgiving weekend. Oh yes, Mr. Chun. Is there a problem? Marcus explained the situation. Danny's canceled leave, the military orders, the unexpected change of plans. As he talked, he expected Jennifer to express sympathy, to say she understood, to offer a refund. Instead, there was a long pause. Mr. Chun, I appreciate you calling, but I have a strict no-refund policy. It's stated clearly on our website and in the confirmation email I sent you. Marcus felt a knot forming in his stomach. But Jennifer, I'm calling you less than 24 hours after making the reservation. The rental isn't for another 2 months. Surely you can rent that bike to someone else. That's not the point, Mr. Chun. Policy is a policy. However, I can offer you vouchers for a future rental. The full $390 can be applied to any rental within the next year. But I don't know when Danny will have leave again. Could be 6 months, it could be longer. I need the refund. Jennifer's voice remained professional but firm. I understand your situation, but I can't make exceptions. If I refund you, I'd have to refund everyone, and that's not how I run my business. The vouchers are the best I can offer. Marcus felt frustration rising. Let me speak to your manager. Mr. Chun, I own the business. I am the manager. The conversation went in circles for another 10 minutes. Jennifer wouldn't budge. She repeated her policy, offered the vouchers again, but absolutely refused a cash refund. Finally, Marcus hung up, angry and defeated. $390. It might not seem like much to some people, but Marcus was a retired schoolteacher living on a fixed income. That money mattered, and the principle of it, being charged for a service that wouldn't be rendered, when he'd canceled with months of advance notice, that rankled even more. Marcus opened his laptop and navigated to his credit card company's website. He found the charge from Sunset Riders and clicked on the dispute button. The credit card company's dispute process was surprisingly straightforward. Marcus filled out a detailed form explaining the situation. The reservation made on September 16th, the cancellation on September 17th, the merchant's refusal to refund despite the 2-month advance notice, and the fact that no service had been rendered. Within 3 days, Marcus received an email. The credit card company had temporarily credited his account for the $390 while they investigated. Marcus felt a surge of relief and vindication. 2 weeks later, another email arrived. Based on the evidence, the credit card company had ruled in Marcus's favor. The temporary credit became permanent. The money was back in Marcus's account. Marcus thought that was the end of it. He was wrong. Jennifer Knoller stared at the notification from her payment processor with disbelief, then mounting anger. The $390 from Marcus Chen's reservation had been reversed. A chargeback. She pulled up her records. September 16th, reservation made. September 17th, customer called to cancel. Jennifer had clearly stated her no-refund policy. She'd offered vouchers. The customer had seemed upset but had accepted it. Or so she thought. Now this. Jennifer had been running Sunset Riders for 8 years. She'd built it from a single motorcycle to a fleet of 14 bikes. It was her livelihood, her pride, her independence after a difficult divorce. And she'd learned hard lessons about business. In the early days, she'd been too accommodating. Customers would book bikes for popular weekends, 4th of July, Memorial Day, Labor Day, and then cancel at the last minute. By then, Jennifer couldn't re-rent the bikes. She'd lost thousands of dollars in revenue before she wised up and implemented the no-refund policy. She'd posted it clearly on her website. She mentioned it during phone reservations. She included it in confirmation emails. Everyone agreed to it when they booked. And yet, here was Marcus Chun, 2 months before his reservation, claiming it was unfair. Jennifer understood that his son's military leave had been canceled. That was unfortunate, but policies existed for a reason. If she refunded Chun, every customer with a sob story would expect the same treatment. Where would it end? She picked up the phone and called her payment processor's dispute department. I need to contest this chargeback, she told the representative. The customer agreed to my no-refund policy when he made the reservation. Do you have documentation of that policy? The representative asked. Yes, it's on my website, and I sent a confirmation email that includes it. Can you forward that to us? We'll review and make a determination. Jennifer sent everything, screenshots of her website showing the policy, the confirmation email, even notes from her phone conversation with Marcus. Then she waited. A week later, the payment processor responded. They were upholding the chargeback. Insufficient evidence that the customer had adequately agreed to the no-refund policy at the time of booking. Jennifer was furious. Not only had she lost the $390, but the payment processor had charged her a $25 chargeback fee, and she'd already paid taxes on that $390 as income. Now she'd have to deal with the accounting nightmare of a reverse transaction. But what really burned was the injustice of it. She'd done nothing wrong. She'd clearly stated her policy. Marcus Chun had agreed to it, then changed his mind and used his credit card company to force a refund. Jennifer decided to fight back. She filed a lawsuit in small claims court. Marcus was working in his garage when the process server arrived. The man handed him an official-looking envelope and had Marcus sign for it. Inside was a summons. Jennifer Knoller, doing business as Sunset Riders Motorcycle Rentals, was suing Marcus Chun for $465. Marcus read through the complaint with growing disbelief. Jennifer was suing him for the $390 rental fee, the $25 chargeback fee from her payment processor, an estimated $50 in additional taxes she'd had to pay on the $390 before it was reversed. The complaint also mentioned inconvenience and claimed that Marcus had violated their agreement by filing the chargeback. Marcus called his credit card company. The representative he spoke to was sympathetic but clear. They'd ruled in his favor, but that didn't prevent the merchant from pursuing the matter in court. "Do I need a lawyer?" Marcus asked. "This is small claims court, sir. Lawyers typically aren't required or even allowed in small claims. You'll represent yourself, as will the plaintiff. Just bring all your documentation and explain your side to the judge." Marcus spent the next few weeks gathering evidence. He printed out the email chain with Jennifer. He documented the timeline: reservation on the 16th, cancellation on the 17th, rental date not until November 26th. He prepared a statement explaining that his son's military leave had been canceled through no fault of their own. He also did research. He found that California law, where they were located, allowed businesses to have cancellation policies, but those policies had to be reasonable and clearly communicated. The question was whether keeping the full rental fee for a cancellation made 2 months in advance was reasonable when the service hadn't been rendered and no actual damages had occurred. Marcus felt confident. He'd canceled in good faith with plenty of notice. He hadn't been trying to cheat anyone. Surely the judge would see that. The small claims courtroom was smaller than Marcus had imagined, less formal than what he'd seen on television. About 20 cases were scheduled that morning, and Marcus and Jennifer's case was number 14. Marcus sat in the gallery watching the other cases. Some were about unpaid debts, others about property damage, a few about disputed services. The judge was a woman in her 60s with sharp eyes and no-nonsense demeanor. She listened carefully, asked pointed questions, and rendered decisions quickly. When case 14 was called, Marcus and Jennifer approached the bench from opposite sides of the courtroom. They didn't make eye contact. "This is case number 2015 SC 008847. Jennifer Knoller versus Marcus Chun," the clerk announced. "The plaintiff is suing for $465 related to a disputed motorcycle rental." The judge looked up from her papers. "Ms. Knoller, you're the plaintiff. Please explain your case." Jennifer stepped forward. She dressed professionally, business slacks and a blazer, and she carried a folder of documents. "Your Honor, I own Sunset Riders Motorcycle Rentals. The defendant made a reservation on September 16th for a 3-day rental over Thanksgiving weekend, totaling $390. He called the next day to cancel. I explained my no-refund policy and offered him vouchers for a future rental. Instead, he filed a chargeback with his credit card company." The judge held up a hand. "Just a moment. When was the rental supposed to occur?" "November 26th through 28th, Your Honor." "And when did he cancel?" "September 17th. The judge looked at Marcus. "Mr. Chun, is this accurate?" Marcus nodded. "Yes, Your Honor. My son is in the military, and his leave was canceled. I called Ms. Knoller less than 24 hours after making the reservation to cancel it." "And you called 2 months before the rental date?" "Yes, Your Honor." The judge turned back to Jennifer. "Ms. Knoller, Let me ask you this. How many motorcycles do you own? 14, Your Honor. And how many were rented for that Thanksgiving weekend when Mr. Chun called to cancel? Jennifer hesitated. Well, Your Honor, it was September. Most people don't book that far in advance for Thanksgiving. So none of your other motorcycles were rented for that weekend when he canceled? Not at that specific time, no. But that's not the point. Actually, Ms. Knoller, that's exactly the point. The judge's voice was sharp. You're standing here telling me that you suffered damages because of Mr. Chen's cancellation. What damages did you suffer? Did you turn away other customers for that motorcycle during that weekend? Well, no, but I could have. Could have is not the same as did. Did you ultimately rent that motorcycle to someone else for Thanksgiving weekend? Jennifer's face reddened. I don't recall specifically, but you don't recall. So you might have rented it to someone else, meaning you would have been paid twice for the same motorcycle for the same weekend. That would hardly be fair, would it? Your Honor, I have a policy. I'm sure you do. Let me see it. Jennifer handed over her documentation. The judge read through it carefully. Ms. Knoller, I see here that your website mentions a no-refund policy in small print at the bottom of the reservation page. Did you verbally explain this policy to Mr. Chun when he called to make the reservation? I always mention it to customers. That's not what I asked. Did you specifically mention it to Mr. Chun on September 16th? Jennifer faltered. I don't remember that specific call, but it's my standard practice. Do you have a recording of the call? No, Your Honor. So you can't verify that you clearly explained this policy before taking his credit card information? I sent a confirmation email with the policy in it. Let me see that email. Jennifer handed it over. The judge read it and looked up. This email does mention a no-refund policy, but it's in the middle of several paragraphs of other information. Mr. Chun, did you read this entire email? Marcus answered honestly. I skimmed it, Your Honor. I'd rented from Ms. Knoller before with no problems, so I trusted the arrangement. The judge set down the papers. Here's what I see. Mr. Chun made a reservation in good faith. Due to circumstances beyond his control, his son's military obligations, he needed to cancel less than 24 hours later, 2 full months before the rental date. Ms. Knoller, you had ample time to rent that motorcycle to someone else. You've admitted under oath that your other motorcycles weren't rented for that weekend when he canceled, meaning you suffered no actual damages. The question before me is whether your policy is reasonable under these circumstances. Jennifer started to speak, but the judge held up her hand. Ms. Knoller, let me give you some free advice about running a business. Customer service matters. Goodwill matters. Mr. Chun had been your customer 3 times before. He called you within 24 hours to cancel, 2 months in advance. A smart businessperson would have processed that refund, maintained the customer relationship, and moved on. Instead, you've spent time and energy on this lawsuit. You've damaged your reputation. I can see Mr. Chen's negative reviews of your business online, and you've brought a case to my courtroom that has no merit. But, Your Honor, I'm not finished. You're asking me to award you $390 for a service you never rendered, when you can't prove you suffered any damages. You're asking me to award you $25 for a chargeback fee that resulted from your own unreasonable policy. And you're asking for tax money on income you didn't actually keep. The answer to all of that is no. Jennifer's face went pale. Your Honor, this sets a terrible precedent. If I refund everyone who wants to cancel, Ms. Knoller, that's a strawman argument. This isn't about refunding everyone who wants to cancel. This is about refunding a customer who canceled within 24 hours, 2 months in advance, for circumstances beyond his control, when you suffered no damages. Those are the specific facts of this case. If someone cancels the day before a rental or even a week before, that's different. You might have legitimate damages then. But 2 months? I'm sorry, but that's just bad business. The judge turned to Marcus. Mr. Chun, did the $390 go back into your account? Yes, Your Honor. The credit card company ruled in my favor. Good. Then this matter is closed. Ms. Knoller, your claim is dismissed in its entirety. You'll receive nothing. Mr. Chun, you owe nothing. Court costs will be borne by the plaintiff. We're done here. The gavel came down. Marcus walked out of the courthouse feeling vindicated but also strangely deflated. He'd won, yes, but the whole experience had left a bitter taste. What should have been a simple refund for a reasonable cancellation had turned into months of stress and a day in court. Jennifer left the courthouse furious and humiliated. She'd been lectured by the judge, her business practices questioned, her case dismissed. She'd lost the $390, paid the $25 chargeback fee, spent money on court filing fees, and wasted an entire morning in court. But more than that, she'd lost something intangible, her sense of being in the right. She'd been so sure that her policy was fair, that she was protecting her business, that customers like Marcus Chun were trying to take advantage of her. Now she wondered. Over the next few days, Jennifer found herself replaying the judge's words. A smart businessperson would have processed that refund, maintained the customer relationship, and moved on. She checked her online reviews. Sure enough, Marcus had left a detailed one-star review explaining the entire situation. Several potential customers had commented on it, saying they'd take their business elsewhere. Jennifer had probably lost thousands of dollars in future rentals because of this dispute. She also thought about her other customers over the years. How many had wanted to cancel with reasonable notice and had walked away angry when she refused? How many had simply not come back for repeat business? How much had her rigid policy actually cost her? Jennifer called her website designer and had him make changes. The new cancellation policy read, "Cancellations made more than 30 days in advance will receive a full refund. Cancellations made 15 to 30 days in advance will receive a 50% refund. Cancellations made less than 15 days in advance are non-refundable, but may be rescheduled subject to availability." It was still protective of her business, but it was fair. It acknowledged that life happened and gave customers reasonable options. She also reached out to her previous customers with an apology email, explaining the policy change and offering a 20% discount on future rentals. Several responded positively, including one who booked for the upcoming Memorial Day weekend. Jennifer never called Marcus to apologize directly. Her pride wouldn't allow that, but she did remove the small claims lawsuit from her records and tried to put the whole mess behind her. Thanksgiving came and went. Marcus spent it alone, though Danny called and they talked for an hour. Danny was safe, which was what mattered most. In February, Danny got unexpected leave. A full week. He called Marcus with the good news, and Marcus started planning immediately. This time, Marcus looked for a different motorcycle rental company. He found one in the next town over, run by a retired couple. Their cancellation policy was clearly stated and reasonable. Marcus booked a bike for 3 days. He and Danny spent those days riding up the coast, just as Marcus had originally planned. They stopped at seafood shacks and scenic overlooks. They talked about Danny's deployments and his plans for after the military. They didn't talk about Jennifer Knoller or Sunset Riders at all. On the last day, as they were returning the motorcycle, the owner, a man named Frank, asked how everything had been. "Perfect," Marcus said. "Just perfect. You know," Frank said, "we appreciate your business, and I noticed you left a great review online. That means a lot to small business owners like us." Marcus smiled. "Good customer service deserves recognition. If you ever need to rent again, you just give us a call. And if something comes up and you need to cancel, just let us know as soon as possible. We'll work it out." "That's the way it should be," Marcus said. Danny shook Frank's hand, then turned to his father. "Ready to head home, Dad?" "Yeah," Marcus said. "Let's go." As they drove away, Danny asked, "So whatever happened with that other rental place? The one you originally booked with?" Marcus shrugged. "We went to court. The judge dismissed her case. Told her she was running her business wrong. And nothing. I found a better business to work with. That's the real lesson here. Treat people right, or they'll find someone who will." Danny nodded. They drove in comfortable silence for a while, watching the Pacific Ocean roll by on their left. "Thanks for arranging all this, Dad," Danny said finally. "It means a lot." "You're welcome, son. It's good to have you home." 3 months after the court case, Jennifer was doing her quarterly review of the business's online presence. It was something her business consultant had recommended: monitor your reputation, respond to reviews, stay engaged with your customer base. She pulled up her business's review page and immediately saw Marcus Chen's review at the top. It had been there for months, but she'd avoided reading it after the first time. Now she forced herself to read it again. 1 star. Unreasonable cancellation policy and poor customer service. I've rented from Sunset Riders 3 times in the past and always had a good experience. However, when I needed to cancel a reservation made less than 24 hours earlier, 2 full months before the rental date, due to my son's military leave being canceled, the owner refused any refund. She offered vouchers instead, which didn't help since we didn't know when my son would have leave again. I disputed the charge with my credit card company and won. The owner then sued me in small claims court. The judge dismissed her case entirely, stating that her cancellation policy was unreasonable given the circumstances and that she'd suffered no actual damages. The judge specifically noted that a smart businessperson would have processed the refund to maintain customer goodwill. I agree. I can't recommend Sunset Riders after this experience. There are other rental companies in the area with fairer policies and better customer service. Jennifer winced. Every word was factually accurate. She couldn't even report it as false or misleading. Below the review, 23 people had marked it as helpful. Several had left comments. Thanks for the warning. I'll rent elsewhere. This is exactly the kind of business practice that drives me crazy. I'm a veteran, and this really bothers me. His son serves our country and they treat them like this. That last comment stung especially hard. Jennifer hadn't thought about it that way. She'd been so focused on her policy, on protecting her business, that she hadn't considered the human element. A father trying to do something special for his son who served in the military. She clicked over to Frank's motorcycle rentals. The place Marcus had given a glowing 5-star review. Frank had a 4.8-star average rating across hundreds of reviews. Jennifer's had dropped to 3.9 stars, with Marcus's review pulling down the average. She compared the 2 businesses' cancellation policies. Frank's was similar to what she'd recently implemented: tiered refunds based on advance notice. It was fair, and his reviews reflected that. Customers appreciated the flexibility. Jennifer thought about those early years of her business when she'd been too accommodating, when last-minute cancellations had cost her money. She'd swung too far in the other direction, becoming rigid and inflexible. The truth lay somewhere in the middle: protect the business from abuse, but treat reasonable customers reasonably. She clicked on the response button below Marcus's review. She'd never responded to it before, thinking that anything she said would just make things worse. But maybe that was pride talking. Maybe what she needed to do was acknowledge the mistake. She typed, "Mr. Chun, I want to publicly acknowledge that you were right and I was wrong. Your cancellation was reasonable, made in good faith with plenty of advance notice, and I should have processed your refund immediately. I let my rigid adherence to a policy override good business sense and basic human decency. I've since changed our cancellation policy to be fairer and more flexible. I hope that future customers will benefit from the lesson I learned from this situation. I'm truly sorry for the stress and inconvenience I caused you and your family, especially given your son's military service. While I know this apology comes late, I want you and other potential customers to know that I've learned from this experience. Customer service and fairness should always come first. Thank you for holding me accountable. Jennifer Knoller, owner, Sunset Riders Motorcycle Rentals." She hit submit before she could second-guess herself. Marcus didn't see Jennifer's response to his review until a friend mentioned it 3 weeks later. He logged in and read it, surprised by her candor and public acknowledgement. He thought about responding but decided against it. She'd apologized publicly, which took courage. Continuing the conversation would serve no purpose. Instead, he simply moved on. 6 months later, Danny called with news. He was being stationed domestically, just 2 hours away from Marcus. They'd be able to see each other regularly. No more year-long deployments, no more canceled leave. "We should celebrate," Danny said. "Maybe another motorcycle trip?" Marcus called Frank's rental place and booked 2 bikes for a weekend. Then, on impulse, he also checked Sunset Rider's website. The new cancellation policy was clearly displayed. It was fair and reasonable. Marcus thought about calling Jennifer, about giving her another chance. But he decided against it. Some bridges once burned stayed burned. Besides, Frank had earned his loyalty with consistently good service. That weekend, Marcus and Danny rode through the hills and valleys of Central California, stopping at small towns and roadside diners. They talked about Danny's new posting, about his plans to go back to school, about maybe meeting someone special. "You seem happy, Dad," Danny said as they sat outside a barbecue restaurant, watching the sun set over Golden Hills. "I am," Marcus said. "You're safe, you're close by, and we're finally getting to do the things I've been planning for years. Like motorcycle trips." "Exactly like motorcycle trips." Danny smiled. "You know what? I'm thinking about buying my own bike. Something to ride on weekends." Marcus raised his eyebrows. "Really?" "Yeah. Frank mentioned he sometimes sells used bikes. Maybe I'll talk to him about it." "That would be something," Marcus said. "Father and son rides whenever we want. No reservations, no cancellations, no policies to worry about." They both laughed. Later that evening, as they rode back to return the motorcycles, Marcus thought about the entire saga with Jennifer Noller. What had started as a simple cancellation had turned into a dispute, a chargeback, a lawsuit, and ultimately a public lesson in business ethics. He didn't regret fighting for his refund. The principle had mattered. But he also didn't take any satisfaction in Jennifer's public embarrassment or her forced policy change. He hoped she'd learned from the experience and that her business would thrive with her new, fairer approach. Mostly, though, he was just grateful to be past it all. The dispute was closed, the court case resolved, the reviews written. Now he could focus on what really mattered: time with his son, the open road, and the simple joy of a motorcycle ride on a beautiful day. Jennifer Noller continued running Sunset Rider's motorcycle rentals for several more years. Her revised cancellation policy was well received, and her online ratings gradually improved. She never became wealthy, but she made a decent living and built a loyal customer base. She framed the judge's ruling from Marcus Chen's case and hung it in her office as a reminder. Customer service matters. Goodwill matters. Whenever she felt tempted to be inflexible with a customer, she glanced at that frame. She also became more involved in the local business community, eventually mentoring young entrepreneurs. Her favorite piece of advice: have clear policies, but remember that policies serve people, not the other way around. The moment your policy prevents you from doing the right thing, it's time to reconsider that policy. Marcus Chun retired fully from teaching and spent his time volunteering at veterans organizations and taking trips with Danny. He rarely thought about the motorcycle rental dispute anymore, though he did occasionally tell the story when friends complained about dealing with difficult businesses. His advice was always the same: stand up for what's fair, but don't let it consume you. Make your point, then move on. Life's too short to stay angry. Danny eventually bought his own motorcycle, ironically, a used Harley-Davidson Street Glide that Frank sold him at a fair price. He and Marcus took rides together at least once a month, building memories and deepening their relationship. Frank's motorcycle rental business continued to thrive. He never knew the full story behind why Marcus had switched to him, but he continued his philosophy of treating every customer fairly and honestly. His business grew through word-of-mouth recommendations from satisfied customers like Marcus. And somewhere in a courthouse filing cabinet, the case of Noller versus Chun remained in the records. A small dispute in a small claims court that had taught everyone involved important lessons about fairness, flexibility, and the true cost of rigid policies. The end.